Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and we are taking a look at Entra ID, formerly known as Azure AD. You'll still see the term Azure AD all over the place, and it really describes the product better because it's Azure's Active Directory, but for whatever reason, they named it to Entra ID. And this is Microsoft's cloud-based identity and access management service, which helps manage users, sign-ins, and access to Active Directory-related resources. This thing is critical to the Microsoft ecosystem because it's used to log into so many things. So if we're talking about external resources, it's used to log into Microsoft Office 365, the Azure portal, SaaS applications. We have internal resources like apps that you've built for your internal network, access to workstations on premise. So some companies will have a suite of computers and they want to make it so you can sign on in a single click. And yeah, Entra ID implements single sign-on. Inside the Microsoft portal, there is Entra ID. It appears both in the Microsoft portal and also the Azure portal. So it can get a little bit confusing, but it is in both places. That screenshot is specifically in Azure. Let's talk about the additions for Entra ID as it has recently changed. So Microsoft Entra ID comes in 3 editions. Some people may say 4, but I look at that 4th one as an add-on. And so we have free, Premium 1, and Premium 2, initialized as P1 and P2. So each editions include all the features from the previous ones because I'm going to list all the features and I want you to know about those ones. That arrow coming in late there for those versions. But let's talk about the free one. So in the free one, you get multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, basic security and usage reports, user management, directory synchronization. For P1, you get everything that we just mentioned, but now we get hybrid architecture, advanced group access, conditional access. It includes, this is included if you have the Microsoft 365, E3, and Business Premium. So, getting Entra ID is very confusing because depending on where you come into the Microsoft ecosystem as a customer, you might already have some version of Entra ID, or you might have functionality that's already bundled in. This conditional access is something that you get for free in other cloud providers like AWS or GCP, but here you got to pay if you want to use something that is not the standard roles that Microsoft is providing or Azure is providing. With P2, you get identity protection, identity governance, and this is available if you are paying for 365 E5 edition. I don't know much, at least not in this video, the difference between E3 and E5. I know we have a course on it, so in that one I sound a lot more intelligible, but right now I could not tell you the difference. And then there's the quote-unquote 4th edition, which we call the Entra Suite. And this adds advanced security, governance, and identity verification solutions and requires a P1 subscription. Again, I don't consider this an addition and more of a bundle of add-ons because there are very specific things that you can add on that you can utilize. I'm just trying to think of the product names. So things like Entra ID Governance or Entra Private Access or Entra Verified ID. These became so common that people wanted all of them at a bundled cost, and so that's what it is. We'll look at that here in a bit, but for now, we'll move on, and let's take a look at use cases for Entra ID. Okay, so Entra ID can authorize and authenticate to multiple sources. It can authorize and authenticate to your on-premise Active Directory, to your web apps. It allows users to log in with IDP, so identity providers, think Facebook or Google. It can log into Office 365, Microsoft Azure, other Microsoft services like Dynamics 365, Teams, SharePoint, Intune, and thousands of third-party SaaS apps in the Azure Marketplace. So just here down the grouping, you get a much clearer picture. And I just want to make call out to the way that you're connecting to them. So if you're using Entra ID and you have cloud applications like Office 365 or Azure, that's just built in. You don't have to do anything additional. If you want to connect via Facebook, Google, you're using external identities. If you have your own apps you've built, you're using app registrations. If you're connecting to your on-premise Active Directory database or data store, you're going to be using Entra Connect. So remember those 3 terms. We're going to see them more coming up here shortly, but just remember those and it'll make life a lot easier, okay? Ciao.